Good afternoon, everyone.
Good afternoon.
A little louder, please. Good afternoon, everyone.
Good afternoon.
So, just to introduce, as Alok said, I am the Chief Strategy Officer and also head HR at Advantage Club. Additionally, I'm also an advisory member at Forbes Global, and I write on HR in particular. When I started my journey in HR, I looked back and I said, how long back HR originated in this world? So there's a prize for that. Is there anybody sitting here in the room who would like to take a guess? How long back was the ancient history when HR originated? Anybody would like to take a punt on that? Okay, so let me share that with you. In 1750 BCE, in the civilization of Mesopotamia, which is today's Iraq, there was the first time origin of HR came. And that happened because of the worker condition were not good while they were building the temple. And then if we look at modern history today, again my second question, anybody remembers the first labor law which was made? Any guesses? Okay, it was way back in 1802 when in British Empire they started the first law which was related to the health and condition, life-related condition of apprentice. So that's how the origin of HR started. And fast forward, if we look at it today, after the industrialization era, way back in 2015, or I would say 14 to be very precise, there was this gentleman called as Mark Levy at Airbnb who started and tossed the concept of employee experience. So if you look back, just before employee experience, we used to talk a lot about HR as a business partner, HR as an enabler, and suddenly if you look at it 2015 onward, we started talking about employee experience. It picked up a lot more, specifically after the pandemic, but the origin of it happened from there. And since then, it's been a long journey. Without wasting time, I'd like to pick the brain of our panelists, which are here, and see how employee experience has changed and what has evolved over a period of time. So that brings to my first question to you, Eric, that given this context of employee experience, and as new as 2015 to now, almost a decade we can say, how do you see that this employee experience has changed over a period of time?
So Raj, and by the way, Raj, good afternoon, everyone. I'm very thankful that you are here, and it's great to see a lot of familiar and new faces here. It really is a gathering of great innovators, great HR minds, and really is really an upliftment of the HR community. This is actually a celebration of humanity and HR at its core. So thank you so much for investing time, and hopefully you'll be able to pick up a few notes. That's something you can take away for your own businesses and organization. Having said that, it really is a very long journey. We're talking about journey here, Raj, and you started with prehistoric times in Mesopotamia. I will not be able to actually have that scholarly value and actually trying to make sure to recalibrate from prehistoric times to 2015 and onwards. But having said that, maybe in the early 1950s or so, and maybe I guess also in the Mesopotamian era or region, we started with a kind of perspective humans experience based on utility. And what do we mean by that? And this also goes to show that we are journeying across the era, amplifying the value of HR and getting the most out of the human spirit. That is essentially the journey with those elements. So let's look back. 1950s or even earlier in the Mesopotamian era, we're really looking at what is needed for HR and for people to work. Essentially, it's really more of the utilitarian perspective. What do you need or what do people need for them to work well? Right? So when you talk about that, do you have the wheels? Do you have the desk? Do you have the table? And more or less people during those times are really happy. And that's the experience that they wanted to have because they're able to have work and they're able to do their work. Now, fast forward a bit from Mesopotamia to 1970s or so, we are now actually focusing now on not just utility, but productivity. Now it's really more of drawing out more from the people, not just what they can do, but what can they do more. So now we're talking about let's train them. So now it's the birth of training. Now it's a birth of upskilling. Now it's a birth of cross-skilling as well, so that they will be able to give more from the business and draw more talent from the people. So it's really all about productivity. With limited span of time, more will be given out of the people, and more will be drawn out from the people, and also bring out the best in people. From utility to productivity, and now what we call engagement. And I'm sure many of you are actually very familiar about engagement. Now's the time that we're measuring how engaged are our people, because they want to make sure, and this is a time where they have correlated satisfaction, engagement with business impact. And now with that, they're trying to see in all of our organizations, we really want to have higher engagement so that we'll have higher productivity, higher impact on the business, higher revenue. And essentially our focus really is make people happy so that they could actually bring more business. So that is now another KPI. But more and more, when the pandemic came on board, it really is really more about not just engagement. Now we're really trying to see purpose. And it's really more about the experience that you're talking about, Raj. Now is the time that, we really need to make sure that they're finding purpose when they go to work. They're aligning their personal values with the values of the organization, such that they are not, some people actually during the pandemic, they just let go of their work because they are totally misaligned. If I'm going to die the next day or next week, I might as well be doing something that I believe in. So there's a lot of purpose, there's a lot of strategy, there's a lot of alignment, there's a lot of transformation happening. And Raj, that is not the end of it, because as we are talking right now, the journey is continuing as we redefine experience.
Absolutely correct, and I do agree with you. It's very well said. Experience is everything with anything, and it's so true about that. When we talk about employee experience, very often we connect that with digital, with technology. And my next question is to you. How do you feel that infusion of digital and technology has actually changed this and its impact on productivity?
In today's world, companies leverage on technology and the digital tools to be able to make their employees productive, more engaged, and more fulfilled as employees. And that can be from the onboarding. So there are already a lot of digital tools used in onboarding these days to make it seamless. It can be consistent. And the employee experience will be consistent all throughout, regardless of when you join the company, your role, and your location. It can also be in communication. So now we communicate via email, via chat, via video conferencing. Regardless of our location, we can collaborate with our colleagues. Also for training and development, we leverage digital tools and technology to even allow employees to have training on demand, so that they can upskill, cross-skill, taking on Eric's explanation earlier. Same with employee engagement, and also for getting employee, even rewards and recognition has become digitized already these days.
You're absolutely right. In fact, when we look at employee experience, there was a time when you used to go and hire, but talent today say that find me instead of hire me. Once you find me, reward me, nurture me. And even if I exit, treat me with respect. And I think that's the transformation coming in. Girish, my next question comes over to you. It's a very, very, very different space where people are trying to assess sentiment, somebody is trying to look at organization health survey. There are various ways of assessing employee experience and impact of it. How do you and your organization ensure that you're meeting most of organizations' people need specifically here, and ensuring that you're delivering a great experience to people?
Thanks for the question. Good afternoon, everyone. My name is Girish. I manage recruitment for EY GDS in the Philippines. I think that's a great question. EY is actually coined this term, and you can look it up on Google. It says that whenever you join, however long you stay, the exceptional EY experience always remains. I think that's the crux, right? I think all companies have similar rationale. Everyone wants to give their employees the exceptional experience, and we do it through various ways. I mean, cross-skilling, upskilling, cross-training are the mantras. generative AI is the buzzword through most of it today, but at the end of the day, you want all your employees to be satisfied with what they do. Now, how do you measure that? That's a tough one. So one of the ways, and I'll go back to what Eric said very early, one of the best ways to measure it is look at productivity of employees. That's a clear indicator. Look at your attrition rates. For new joiners, the best way that we measure it is we look at the employee referrals. How many do they want to refer from their past organizations or from the circle that they know if it's our job at hand? All that goes to show the kind of engagement that they have with the firm. Over a period of time, obviously you also want to speak to their managers, understand what's the sentiment looking like. We do sentiment analysis, we do various things to try and check on the kind of feedback that we get from employees, but more importantly, what we try and do is we try and listen to employees. So we realize as a professional services firm, a lot of the work that we do need not necessarily be performed only from the office. You can do it from home, you can do it from anywhere. At the end of the day, they're all toll gate driven. Right? So I think our way of measuring is not. We look at it from all angles put together, keeping the employee at the center of whatever we do.
Indeed, I think we did talk about technology, we talked about measurement, but a very important aspect is leadership. You know, if your leadership doesn't believe in giving a great employee experience, usually we've realized it just falls apart. Jason, my next question is for you. How do you ensure that leaders are aligned to this thought process? And what's the impact a leader can have on this entire initiative, and what's been your experience about it?
Thank you for your question. So first of all, good afternoon, everyone. So I'm Jason, the country head for HR for Transparent BPO. And I would like to thank also the Advantage Club and the organizer of this event, because all the HR practitioners been gathered all together after a huge pandemic here in the world. So, and then thank you for those who stayed after the lunch. Thank you so much. Anyway, go back to your question. So actually, as a leader, you should be the main champion of promoting for positive, productive, and safe employee environment. That's very, very important. And as a leader, you're supposed to be a good example to your colleagues, to your employees. So just an experience. Before I became an HR practitioner, I came from a rank and file. I came from an agent post in the call center. And then when I got promoted, I've been in the HR industry already. So I make it a point that HR is supposed to be a visible one. Because in a call center, we don't know who are those HR. We just, they just, appear once there will be a termination, if there will be a hiring. So after that, there's none. So we promote visibility of human resources as a leader, and of course engagement. So engagement is not only activities. Engagement is not only fun and activities. So engagement is interaction with your employees as well. So as a good leader, you're supposed to be a good example for them. That's it.
So true. You always lead by example and make sure that people follow that. Eric, my next question is to you. What do you think is the future of employee experience? And what kind of trends do you see is going to impact employee experience?
That's a very interesting question, and definitely something that I'm not a master of. And I don't have my crystal ball right now, given the very volatile, uncertain, complex, and ambiguous future that we have. So we just have to be very agile, embracing whatever happens, very, very attuned to the changing landscape and the changing times. I guess that's one thing that we have learned from the pandemic. But having said that, if you look at the trend that we have discussed earlier on, utility, productivity, engagement, and actual experience, more and more the journey tells us that we are bringing out the best in the human spirit since then. We are seeing, before we are just aspiring to have a desk, right? Just to be able to work. Now we're aspiring for alignment, for purpose, for fulfillment. As you can see, the human spirit is becoming brighter and brighter. And also, Krish talked about technology. You talked about technology. For sure, the future is full of aided, amplified technology that would mimic somehow the human spirit and the human intelligence. For sure, you have ChatGPT, different chatbots, you have different bots, even recruitment that's being handled by artificial intelligence, videos, and so on and so forth. A lot of technology, for sure. But who is the master of technology? It is the human spirit. Who is the creator of technology? It is the human intelligence. More and more, as we create more technology to aid us in the experience, consistency, what will amplify the actual human spirit is actual humanity. You talked about leadership. The more that leadership will be amplified in the future, the greater the need for us, because we will not just be anything that would be followers would essentially be, dominated by bots, right? Anything that is repetitive, that could just be following orders, we will need more leaders in the future. And that is a challenge for us. Humanity needs more leader, humanity needs more empathy, humanity needs more vulnerability. And no robots can actually mimic all of those things.
So beautifully put across. And just to sum it up, there's a new concept which is emerging after employee experience called as digital employee experience, DEX, wherein as a human, you decide your time, your technology, your device, and your experience that is going to define the difference in between a good to great organization. And we have seen as a part of Advantage Club, where we are operating in more than 100 countries, wherever employers have given choice in hand of employees, we have seen the success rate to be far more higher. The moment you start dictating employees, it becomes difficult for them. And that brings my next question to you, Ravi. When you look at employee experience, there is no one size that fits all. So how do you go about strategizing?
Um, from experience, you try to standardize what you want to be consistent. For example, the goals, the values, the culture of the organization, that part you want to standardize. However, the part that has to be more personalized, more training, communications, to make sure that you are really creating a supportive, productive, efficient workplace.
Absolutely. And that also then brings me to the next question to you, Girish, and last two questions, then we'll open a forum for any audience has any question. There are various ways of effectively looking at feedback gathering. There are sometimes employees do come in open and share feedback, but sometimes employees do hesitate and do not come out in open and share feedback. So how do you go about gathering this feedback and make sure you get the right voices, back in before you strategize for it?
So now I'll give you an example of what EY does, and this is globally. So all 365,000 of our employees receive this. We call it the Pulse survey. It runs every quarter, and it has some questions. So it's obviously broken down by country, it's broken down by service line, and it is by function. But it's not it's not broken down by person because it's a confidential survey. What we try and find out are some very critical factors. Are they really enjoying what they're doing? And if they are, do they intend to stay in the firm 12 months from today? Would they continue talking to others about EY being an employer of choice? Or would they hesitate in doing stuff like that? Now, what we found is obviously the survey changes, right? Every quarter when you do it, the results change. And like in the current quarter that we did, we found some areas which we thought we had to work more on. So that's an area of focus that we're going to do. What it has done over a period of time is given employees the belief that they can go ahead and share information and no one's going to get judged because it's confidential at the end. But it will be relevant to the Philippines. So you know exactly what's going right in the Philippines, what are the areas that we need to improve in the Philippines, because the needs of an employee will keep changing. Right now, one of the hot topics getting debated is the return to office. We need people 5 days in office, 3 days, 2 days. What's the take? Different companies have different ways to measure it, depending on client sensitivity, requirements, etc. We've tried to do the same. We've done the same to our Pulse service. We have an answer, and we've created a policy around it. So I think that's one of the ways to do it. And if I could, I know we're running on a schedule, but maybe one more way of looking at it is also empowering your managers to find out from their team members what's really ailing them. Because at the end of the day, we are all working in a hybrid setup. So you have a couple of days in office, more of your days would be at home, so that you spare yourself from going through the traffic, etc. Right? But be more productive. Empower the managers, so they are able to also share those feedback. So your Pulse service can be one way. Your managers who are actually talking to your frontline employees day in and day out are the second mode through which you can consolidate feedback and create one action.
So true. And just to summarize, I loved it what you said. It's approachability and confidentiality that helps people speak. My last question is to you, Jason. How do you ensure that you do not face too many roadblocks while implementing a great employee experience. So what do you think are the challenges to great employee experience?
Actually, challenges is creating variety and sustainability. So, which can be overcome, which is a genuine investment promoting a work positive environment. So, technically, challenges that's part of our life, especially as an HR practitioner, facing all the problem challenges of the employees. That's also our shortcomings as well. So technically, as a leader, you're supposed to how to face it, how to resolve it. It's not really 100% perfect. It's not really 100% resolution, but you make it a point that as a challenge, you need to give an ample time to give, of course, an advice, especially in terms of leadership.
Absolutely. And just to sum it up, when we look at true sense of experience, it comprises three very essential elements. You engage people, you reward people, and you celebrate with them. That's how you create a great employee experience. And once again, thank you to Advantage Club for sponsoring this. We're open to any question that you have. Maybe we can take 2 questions in your own time. So if there is anybody who has any question, we'll be very happy to pick up, please.